morning, everybody. Welcome to WTW Insight webinar. My name is Mandy Thorndike. I'm the Early Careers Lead for EMEA here at WTW, and I'll be hosting today's session. First of all, I'll give you a brief overview as to who we are and also our intern and graduate programmes, and then I'll be handing over to our panel of graduates to answer some of your questions. Just a little bit of housekeeping before I start. In the bottom right-hand corner, you should be able to see a questions tab. Please do pop any questions in there that you'd like to ask our panel. And if there's somebody in particular that you'd like to ask that question to, then please do also pop in their name. They'll be introducing themselves shortly. So here we go. So who are we? WTW is a leading global advisory and broking company and dating back to 1828. There are over 46,000 of us across 140 countries. Oh, I don't know why my slides moved on. And we work with some of the most prestigious businesses out there. So some of the stats from here, we've got 449 of the Fortune Global 500, 893 of the US Fortune 1000. But of course, we also serve many other clients of all different shapes and sizes. As a business, we're split into two different segments, which are risk and broking, and then health, wealth and career. And within those different segments, there are lots of different lines of business and lots of different teams. And I think one of our real strengths comes from the cross collaboration across those teams, across lines of business and also across segments, but also across different geographies. So that was a little bit about what we do. And this is really about how we do it. So, you know, I've said before, we've got, you know, an awful lot of clients, a lot of very prestigious clients, but I think it's important to note as well that we've worked with a lot of those clients for a very long time. And, you know, we firmly believe that that's down to our values that, you know, lie at the core of these relationships. I've only actually been here for a few weeks myself, and I can honestly say that I've seen all of these values in action across all of the different teams that I've worked with so far, which is really lovely to see. So, inclusion and diversity at WTW. This is something that we're really passionate about. And, you know, we think about diversity in all of its broadest forms, you know, including diversity of thought as well. We call it inclusion and diversity, as if we really want to have diversity, we have to have inclusion first and people have to feel welcome. We've got a global I&D council, and then we've got various networks which foster understanding, a sense of belonging and allyship. And you can see them mentioned there on the screen. Something else that's really important to us at WTW is the well-being of our colleagues, both their mental and physical well-being. A recent survey by Sybil reported that students increasingly look at the availability of mental health support when choosing a place to study or indeed work. And in fact, the most recent report, which came out last week, said that 81% of students, well, respondents stated that robust support is important to them when choosing an employer. We have support in abundance. But we don't do it because this is what the research tells us. We do it because it's the right thing to do. We've got a global resource hub that's packed full of information and training modules and resources that are available to everybody across all teams and all lines of business. So let's have a quick look at the types of programs that we offer. Broadly speaking, we have two types of programs. So we've got our internships, which run in the summer for between 8 and 10 weeks, dependent on line of business. And this gives you the opportunity to get a real insight into client work and the type of work that we do, and also understand us as a business. And it can also fast track you to a graduate offer. Our graduate programs give you real responsibility from day one, give you, you know, exposure to client assignments, and also give you exposure to a vast array of colleagues at lots of different stages of their careers. So you're surrounded by people with lots of varying experiences to help support you as you launch your career with WTW. This is a list of the various lines of business that we're hiring into for our internship programs for 2024. I won't read it out to you, but I'll just leave it on screen for a moment. And then this is a list of the graduate programs that we're recruiting into at the moment. All of our vacancies are live on our website. We do recruit on a rolling basis. So we open and close roles dependent on kind of the flow of applications. So please do check back frequently for updates. So just a note about the type of attributes that we look for during our assessment process. Obviously key listening skills, verbal and written communication. I think a real passion and enthusiasm to learn. You need to be very driven, curious. Asking lots of questions is a great thing, and client focused as well. This is our application process, which I think is pretty standard. So you need to complete an online application form, which has some pre-qualifying questions in there. And then if successful at that stage, you go through to a high view assessment, which is an on-demand video, which asks between 3 and 6 questions. You get time to prepare for those questions before you need to answer them. And then there are also 2 game-based challenges included within that module, and it takes about 30 minutes to complete. Once that's completed, our recruiters go through all of those interviews to screen them and to look and score them and rank them, and then the successful candidates are brought through to our virtual assessment centres, which are designed to help you get to know a little bit more about us as well, but also obviously for you to showcase your skills and hopefully be successful and to get an offer at the end of it. Right, now for the bit that I think really everybody has been waiting for. I don't think there's been any questions so far popped into the question piece. So I'll hand over to the graduate panel for them all to just introduce themselves. So guys, I don't know, well, Alex is top left-hand corner on the slide. So shall we start with Alex and just follow the order of the slide?
Sure. All right, I'll get started. Hello, my name is Alex. I'm a software development graduate. I started last September, and yeah, that's me.
What did you study, Alex, and where did you study?
I studied computer and internet engineering at the University of Surrey, which is kind of like a half computer science, half electronic engineering kind of degree.
Right, thank you.
Do I just follow on?
Please.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you. My name's Freya Elwood. I am an analyst sitting in the Executive Compensation and Board Advisory. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'll abbreviate from here on into ECBA. I sit in the health, wealth and career segment of the business. So my focus is mainly on people consulting. At university, I studied international relations and languages at the University of East Anglia.
Great, thank you. Rupal, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hiya, my name's Rupal Varia. I am a lead associate in the retirement team. I went to University of Kent and I did financial mathematics there. I've been in the company for 5 years, and yeah, I think we basically work with pensions and do benefit calculations and stuff, and we'll probably get more into detail in the panel. But alongside my retirement role, I hold quite a few community roles, one of them being an Excel champion, a study mentor, a normal mentor. There are quite a few mentors in WTW, so yeah, feel free to ask me any questions on those little hats as well.
Great, thank you. Millie?
Morning, I'm Millie. I recently graduated from the University of Warwick. I did a master's in business with consulting. Very recently joined WTW in September on the corporate risk and broking grad scheme. And I'm currently in the marine line of business.
Great, thank you. Esther?
Morning, everybody. Hi, my name's Esther. I am also on the corporate risk and broking grad scheme, and I am on my second rotation. So I started last year, September. My first rotation was in international property broking, and I'm doing my current rotation within FinEx, looking at financial institutions and operational risk solutions. I went to the University of Portsmouth and I studied my undergrad in economics, and I did my postgrad in economics, banking and finance.
That's great, thank you. I can see that there are a few questions starting to come into the chat, but I'll kick it off with one of mine, if I may. And it's open to anybody that's on the panel. Everybody would be great. I suppose it'd be really interesting to understand why did you apply for WTW, and what attracted you to the particular program that you're on.
Do we go in the same order that we introduced ourselves to answer that question?
Up to you. You've just volunteered yourself first, so yeah, why not?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I guess for me it was the fact that obviously WTW has a variety of software products covering kind of all sorts of different areas of insurance, and the thing that attracted me the most is obviously that variety comes with a variety of technologies and kind of types of roles that you work in, be it front end, back end development, some cloud engineering as well. And the fact that the company is a Microsoft Gold partner, so we have access to a lot of training resources from Microsoft directly. And obviously we get to use all of their fancy new technologies.
Sorry, I'm getting used to unmuting myself still after 3 years on Zoom. I knew that I didn't want to do a lot more math. Obviously, you still have to do maths. It's just going to be something you're going to have to deal with. But I wanted to do something a bit more people-based, a bit more, I don't know how to say this politely without, I just wanted to do something that was completely new to me, right? And so something away from maths that was focusing on human interaction was something that was really important to me. And finding a consultant role that had that was quite niche and quite rare. And yeah, so it's a fantastic opportunity. And essentially what I found out what I did or was going to do was be working out how we pay chief executives and the executive boards of business. So it's super, super interesting. I found out that I was going to be working with like non-executive directors, heads of reward, chief people officers. And so, yeah, I wanted something that was quite high flying as well as, quite people based.
Cool.
Go for it. No, that's okay. If you have something, you can. I'll go after you.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's one of the reasons why I applied. I must have been doing my master's degree, and one of the modules that we studied was the different types of risks that international banks face, and I'd say that was probably my first major exposure into risk management and the importance of it. And we're looking at things such as credit risk, market risk, operational risk, liquidity risk, all these key things that big financial institutions face. And I was like, okay, this is very important. I think it would be great to explore further what this is and why it's so essential, because of course it was because of these risks that the great financial crisis happened. And so I literally just went online, just typed in like risk grad schemes, and I started to see like a lot of insurance companies, brokerages were coming up. Not that I'd really considered them too tough, but what the contents of the roles that were coming up were really interesting to me. So I must have seen WTW one, and the title of this was Corporate Risk and Broking, and I said, wow, this sounds exactly like what I'd want to get into. I wasn't too sure about what broking was, had no affiliation with it whatsoever, but it was a new experience. So and I knew that within the role that I wanted to work within, I wanted a lot of top large clients, large banks I personally wanted to work with, which is something that I do get the opportunity to do today, working with the corporations that are in the top Fortune 500 companies, and being able to see the kind of risks that they face on a daily basis, and actually being able to develop solutions with that. So yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I've had so many different experiences and enjoying it so far.
I applied to WTW more from a perspective of I needed a job initially. That is quite literally one of the most banal reasons I can give you is everyone applies because they need a job. But I think I stayed because of just the values, the diversity, the amount of training you get on the job. I knew I wanted to do something actuarial. I did financial mathematics. I knew I didn't want to go into something that wasn't actuarial. That is what I knew. And I also worked for one of the clients of WTW as a placement student. So I heard about WTW through them. I tried my luck with the interviews, and then I got into the office for one of my interviews. And honestly, that's when I knew that this is where I wanted to be. It's one of those things where you really don't know what you're getting into until you get into it, especially because as a grad you really don't have that much experience. So for me it was very much the interview process took gave me the proper insight of right, their interview process is brilliant, they're giving me insight onto the company. I came and saw the actual office in Reigate where I'm based as well, and honestly all of those were selling points. An added bonus was the people. So once I joined, I realized how important it was for me to have a conducive environment to myself and having that sort of support system that WTW gives. And I've got some experience from other companies, and I don't recall having that kind of support anywhere else. But I do know I get that on a daily basis, even like 5 years down the line. We still have that little grad group we all joined together, 13 of us. We all joined together. You're in the same boat. You have that sort of support system that you get by being on a grad scheme. And I feel that's what's unique to our graduate schemes, our internships, and what all you have it.
I think for me, it's a kind of similar in there's so many grad schemes out there, and as a grad it can become overwhelming, and as a student you need to attend. I think for me it was really important to attend things like this, like webinars with grads, and understand what the company is like have an insight into the company, the people, and every single WTW event that I went to, people said about the culture, the people. It's all really important, and that was really important for me. Like, it's not just about the grad scheme you're on, it's not just about the work you're doing. The thing that really makes your day to day is the people that you work with and the environment that you're in. And WTW really won that over for me, and especially as you go through the application process, you kind of get a feel for what the company's like. And especially someone who doesn't come from a Morse or mathematics background, I have a creative undergrad. It's really nice to know that you can apply to like a financial institution or like a broking company, or someone that you might not feel like you can get a leeway in, like you can get, because I didn't think I'd get a foot in the door in somewhere like WTW, but it's nice to know that they welcome people from all different backgrounds, all different degrees. It's just who you are as a person, and how hardworking you are that really, gets you here. So yeah, that's what I loved about WTW.
That's great. Thanks so much, Millie. There are lots of questions coming into the chat, but just to kind of pick up on one, following on what you just said there, Millie. Somebody's asked about advice around succeeding in the assessment centre at WTW, or indeed any other firm in general. What advice would you give to people around the assessment centre? I obviously have a view in my role, but it would be great to hear from the panel.
Having gone through it very recently, I think it's really important to, like I said, attend sessions like this. WTW, from what I recall, hold quite a few like this. Get a really good feel of what the company is about, their values, research the company, go on their website. If you can, message people on LinkedIn, like understand from people what the company's like, what they value, and really try and think about your own experiences and how you can sort of mold your own experiences for what WTW wants. So think about if their value is teamwork, think about your experiences where you've demonstrated really good teamwork or leadership, and try and demonstrate that in your assessment centres. But yeah, I'd get a really good feel of the company.
Anybody else, anything to add on that particular question?
So being a part of the interview, or like doing interviews, being on the other side of it, what I can say is I second everything Millie just said, but also on top of that, try to what really gets on people's nerves as interviewers, without sugarcoating it, is throwing words in when you don't understand that. Like throwing words for the sake of it, buzzwords, big words. For example, I do interviews for retirement, so people who've kind of already worked for a few months as placement students or whatever, throw in words like CETVs and then aren't able to explain what an acronym CETV would mean. Rookie error. Don't throw in words that you don't understand. This is not a test of, oh, we're going to try and trip you up. It's more of trying to get to know you. It's a conversation. An interview is trying to get to know you. We do these interviews blind, so we don't know you. We don't have any idea of what you like, what your skills are, what you've done, what your experiences are, and that's what we're trying to get with these interviews. So make it as easy for the interviewer to get to know you, because that's how we will know how best, what your fit is with the company. Because at the end of the day, we're here to work together. You will be working with the people interviewing you. So yeah, first impressions, try not to say things that you don't understand, research the company. Yeah, everything Millie said. Talk to people.
Yeah, can I jump in? I've not done the interviewing, but I've done the kind of team tasks. So I've hosted those. I think no one is expecting you to be a broker, consultant, actuary. Like, we're not expecting you to be a professional trained, in that area already. We're expecting you to come with friendliness and an openness and a willingness to kind of work with the other people in your assessment centre. And I think also, if you can be the timekeeper, that's always in any task, in any assessment centre. If you can be like, I'm going to keep the time, guys, that for me is a by your name. But yeah, no one's expecting you to already be a consultant. We do the whole thing blind. So just the more friendly and open you are, like RuPaul said, the better.
I think just to add to everything that the guys have said, that's all fantastic. I think my single biggest piece of advice for any process like this is read the question. Be it for the higher view assessment, be it as part of the actual assessment centre. If you are given things to read it again. Make sure you've understood what the question is, but also don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a two-way thing. Obviously, there'll potentially be certain questions that the assessors can't answer because it would be giving you the answer. But yeah, my biggest piece of advice from me would be read the question. Anything?
I just remembered another thing, which was the STAR technique. When you're reading the question and trying to understand the question and trying to think of how to answer it, do take the STAR technique into play. And I don't know if everyone knows it, but it's basically talk about the situation, task, what you actioned, and what the result was. I think I'm not sure. I haven't done it in a while, but it's really good way to hit all the points that we're looking for in an answer, and it is easier for us to follow an answer as well.
Great. So I'm just looking through the questions, trying to group them into themes. There've been a couple of quite very specific questions around this, but just to maybe broaden it up a little bit, it's around kind of growth opportunities. And once you kind of roll off program, what opportunities for development are there at WTW?
So I'm coming up to my I'm in my second year, so I'll be rolling off next September. And I know that the program will speak to us further about the process of rolling off. But the good thing about being in this grad scheme, as you said, is the amount of opportunities that you do get. And alongside that, the scheme does build you in a variety of different disciplines. So if you're not already aware, we on the corporate risk and broking side of the scheme, we are given the professional qualification of the ACII. So that's towards our advanced diploma in the Chartered Institute of Insurance. And it's the studies that you do alongside whilst you're working. And the grad scheme promotes people to get to the most advanced level. So so that way you are able to get up to speed with what the insurance industry is about, as well as the specific disciplines within it. So you'll cover things like insurance broking practices, insurance law, you'll cover insurance business and finance, and a variety of different disciplines, so that you are able to get a good knowledge of what you are engaged with and what other opportunities lie ahead of that. As well as that, we also have the risk analytics scheme or program inbuilt as well, which actually I found very useful for me, because that actually it gave me exposure to the different core analytics tools and data tools that we have within WTW, which are very, very great. And that gave me the exposure to the role of like consultancy and risk analytics there, which actually helped me to choose my second rotation. So it's things like that are embedded within the program that give you exposure to a variety of different opportunities that lie ahead, so that when it does come to you thinking about where do I want to roll off, you could use some of those areas. We also have the sales and client management initiative that's built into our program too, so you get exposure through there. But what most of the grads would say, the best area to get insight about the next site opportunities is to also internally network as you go along. So we are really encouraged to seek out mentors within the business, and they don't necessarily have to be from your area. They can be throughout the company. They can even be on the health, wealth and career side of things. They can be on the CRB side of things, whichever one. So that way you can also gain insights from them as well. But then also the variety of networking events that happen internally gives you opportunities to speak to other people, and if they don't know the particular area that you want to get into, they could liaise with other people and connect you. Also using LinkedIn as well is the best, one of the best platforms too. And yeah, there's a variety of areas that you can use to gain insights. So that way, when you are starting to think about, okay, where do I want to roll off to, you have some points of direction. So yeah, definitely networking internally is highly commended, as well as making use of the different initiatives and programs built in to the scheme so that you can leverage upon.
That's great. Thanks, Esther. Has anybody else got anything to add on that particular point?
Yeah, I thought I might maybe, first of all, I completely agree with Esther. I think networking is a heavily kind of underrated way of, obviously getting to know people in the company, but also finding out about potential opportunities and other roles that you might want to move into. I just wanted to add, for the software development program, if anyone's interested in that, there's a lot of opportunities. So as part of the grad program, you will be rotating between 4 roles throughout the 2 years. So you'll be doing a bit of back-end engineering, some front-end engineering. You will then also do 6 months of quality assurance, so test engineering and DevOps, which involves kind of like cloud engineering and automated pipelines that kind of do a bunch of work for us in the background automatically. And then after that, obviously, once the kind of grad program is done, having had a taste of these kind of key areas of software engineering, you can go into any one of these 4 that you like more, or there's also opportunities to go into things like perhaps engineering management or software architecture. So there's always loads of opportunities, and your line managers will always be able to kind of help out and guide you to kind of get to what you want to do down the line in your career.
Yeah, and retirement, it's very similar. Again, you rotate into 3 different parts of the retirement business in your first 2 years, and you also get an opportunity to do a month-long placement in a different department, and there are opportunities for secondments out to other departments, other companies, and all of that based on, again, requirements and needs. So a lot of growth possibilities, a lot of possibilities for just trying out different sectors and different areas that help retirement, just to further your knowledge, especially as stakeholders to other departments within the company. You'd want to know how we add on value to them and how other teams add value to us. So a lot of opportunities to go find out what other teams do and how they kind of correlate with us.
From the kind of health, wealth and career side, the scheme is fixed. So I sit in ECBA. I haven't rotated to the other parts of the practices. But I would say in terms of like career development, I was on client meetings in my first 3 weeks, and that's just continued. I'm now a couple of the billing managers, so I sort out the finances for the clients and us. I'm the relationship managers for a couple, and I'm the point of contact for clients for the day-to-day, only in my second year. So in terms of development as a consultant, that's fantastic, I'd say. And, you know, as soon as you can become a trusted pair of hands, that's when your development will start in any line of the business. So yeah, working on becoming a trusted pair of hands in your first year is so important.
I would also just say, echoing what everyone really said, but WTW is such a broad company. There's so many different, especially on our side of the business, corporate risk and broking, there's so many different lines of business, so many different sort of global opportunities as well. And it's really important to, like everyone said, to network, and people are so willing to help you. We know people who have been at the company for 20, 30 years and have just dotted around different lines of businesses. And by that, I mean, I'm in the marine line of business. There's sort of like finance, construction. There's a lot of different opportunities that you can get involved with, little projects as well. So it's not that you'll be stuck somewhere for your whole life and your whole career. There's lots of opportunity for change and movement, which I really was a big positive for me as well.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. So moving on to the next kind of theme of questions. It's around some of the challenges that you faced during your time on programme. Who'd like to take that one first?
I think even for me, as I've just started, having like one of the problems that I've found in that transition from university to work life is like having difficult conversations with people. You're never faced with the like having to have a difficult conversation with like your boss or with like a colleague at university. So it's learning how to sort of navigate those conversations. And what's really nice as well is that we have such a good support sort of on the grad scheme. You have like a grad team who are really supportive of you, and you have your mentors. And I would just say it's a big transition from university to work life. So just having that support system is really, really important. But I would say, yeah, challenging is having difficult conversations. So it's a good thing to learn in the first few months.
I'd almost extend that to communication skills. I think that's a big transition. It's not just difficult conversations, but also just being on top of your communications. You're working in a big team. You're working in conjunction with other people, and quite a lot of things are based on timelines and deadlines that are, again, client-based. So you need to just up your game on communications, because that's one of the things that probably got dusted under the rug with COVID and everything going online and everything being a little bit more virtual. So communication is definitely one of the stepping up games as a transition. Another thing that was really hard for me was the balance of work, exams, and life. So if you're joining the retirement actuarial team, you'll have to do actuarial exams, which is another full-time job on its own. There's a lot of time that's spent on it, and it is, again, if you're joining any actuarial team within WTW, you will be expected to do the exams, which they're rewarding as rewarding as they can get, but they are also time consuming. They are hard. And most of us who've joined this actuarial team have possibly never ever failed an exam in our lives. And that's kind of why you're here, because you quite enjoy that mathsy and technical aspect of life. But actuarial exams are hard. And many of the people who do fail coming into this actuarial exams, this is the first time. So, that transition into these exams are hard. There's a balance that I need to achieve. I can't be studying all the time. I need to have some break. That's really hard to achieve, because people can go to an extreme end of things, either with work or with exams, and almost not have any time for relaxation for themselves. That's where study mentors come in, or mentors at work come in. So that transition, however, is still hard, and you need to take some time away for yourself. So that was very difficult, and I still see it is difficult for new grads as well.
Great. Anyone else with anything to add to that one? No. There's a very specific question for you, Freya, in the chat around. Could you talk about the role of people consulting a bit more broadly?
Yeah, of course. Great question. Because you hear people consulting, and it's a bit like, so what do you actually do? So when we think of people consulting, we think of businesses in their entirety. And that means we are looking, so say, for example, we'll take a supermarket. The consulting we do varies from, you've got your shop floor workers straight up to your executive officers. And that can involve, what pay do they get? What benefits do they get? What retirement schemes do they get? Which RuPaul, I'm sure, can speak a lot more on than me, but that's one of the things that we do. And it is essentially the understanding that businesses do not work without people, and how do we make those people as successful, as happy, and as healthy as possible, which is really, really interesting, because it's not a new field in consulting, but it's certainly up and coming. I think the pandemic made everyone think, actually, this is so important. We actually could do with a bit of advice on how we handle these questions. So I specifically work with the top of the the triangle, if you will, and it's focusing specifically on corporate governance and remuneration. So how do we pay people? I'm sure if anyone's actually read the news this morning, the NatWest boss has just been denied her bonus, long-term incentive, shares, and so that's sort of the thing that I help calculate, that I help advise on. My colleagues, I've got colleagues in employee experience. That is essentially how, that can be communications roles, that can be psychology roles for the grad schemes that are open. And it's basically assessing how do we effectively communicate with our employees to make them the happiest, healthiest and best that they can be. Work and reward is another practice you can apply to. That essentially works out how do we incentivize people. And so I essentially do work and reward for the kind of top tier, but work and reward is for the whole business. But we work not just with businesses as well. We work with think tanks, we work with unions. So it's a hugely diverse scheme. But yeah, happy to take any further questions on LinkedIn if people would like to reach out and talk a bit more about people consulting.
That's great. Thanks very much for that, Freya. I've just been scrolling through the questions, and I said I'm trying to kind of group. There are a couple in there around culture. I know we touched on it very briefly around values and kind of people's motivations for joining WTW, but I always find this question quite difficult to answer. So that's why I've chosen it, because I think it's really important around culture. So how would you describe the culture at WTW?
I would describe the culture as very, very friendly, especially in being in the corporate, it's in such a large corporate space. As we know, like WTW is one of the third largest and one of the top largest insurance brokerages and consultancy firms. And it's such a wide organization with so many different parts and mechanisms to it. But even despite that, there is still an sense of inclusivity as well, and the different networks that are also in existence apart from just your day-to-day role that I'm actually a part of really does help to give it that home, that the feel that makes it seem as if you're not just purely doing your day job and that's it. So we've got I'm part of the committee for the multicultural network, and very actively involved in there when it comes to inclusion and diversity. And there are so many different events that are put on just to kind of get you outside of the four walls of the work office, and to give you that sense of also character and personality, and knowing that you're still contributing to a good cause outside of your day job. So, especially when it comes to different different cultural events in the calendar. We're actively involved in that. There's also the Gender Equity Inclusion Network, the LGBTQ plus, and also the Young Professionals Network as well, which I also was part of the committee, but had to step down due to time constraints. But that's also really great for young professionals that have just joined, especially like new entry hires that are able to have the ability to connect with wider people across the business. Because I think, especially when it's such a large corporation, sometimes you may specifically just stay within your line of business. So I'm within CRB, sometimes you may just necessarily may feel compelled to just stay there. But with the different networks and societies that, especially in inclusion, diversity space, it gives you the opportunity to speak to people on the health, wealth, and career side of places, for instance. And there's different initiatives that can get people who wouldn't normally reach each other to connect, such as the reverse mentoring. So I was part of that initiative, rolling that out. And that's when junior colleagues essentially mentor the senior colleagues, which seems kind of counterintuitive, but actually has a large amount of benefits. So, for instance, my reverse mentor was actually on the retirement side of things. His name's Rash, and he was my reverse mentor, and it was great to be able to speak to him and share with him my insights about what I was experiencing, what I was enduring, like on this side of things, and coming from like the head of retirement in that sense, and him being able to input some of his experiences was great too. So I'd say overall, that sense of culture, that sense of inclusivity is very much at the forefront with WTW, especially connecting the junior hires with the senior hires and everything in between. So that's been really great for me and insightful.
I was just going to say, on top of that, from someone who's only very recently joined WTW, it's such a welcoming culture. And I think, just going off of what Esther said, people are so willing to help you, especially as young people or graduates joining the company. People are very invested in your growth, especially at WTW. Especially if you're on a grad scheme. Grad schemes host lots of sessions with senior leaders in the company, and they're always really willing to talk to you and to help you and give you advice. So that's one thing that I've really noticed. People from all up and down the company are so willing to help you.
I think for me, I did a lot of sports at uni. It's something that I really enjoy. And so the opportunity, formally and informally, to do sports at WTW was great. I've got an informal netball team, but I know there's a formal one. There's formal rugby. Like there's a variety of sports. There's running clubs. There's all sorts. But something for me that was a big priority was corporate social responsibility, which is essentially just a big word for a massive charity team that operate across the company. So we had the opportunity to do a hike across the Seven Sisters on the South Coast. Next year, we're planning to do the Three Peaks Challenge, which is Scarfell, Nevis, and Snowdon. And yeah, even this week in my practice, we've had like a charity bake sale. So it's like, it's a lovely place to be.
We did a Christmas themed volunteer day. So we basically helped a local charity that's called Stripey Stork help prepare gift bags for families in need who wouldn't have any gifts. So we basically really do enjoy our volunteer days because we do it as a team. We go, like we ask people who are interested, and we then make it themed. We either go during a a Christmas sort of vibe, or we go for a Halloween sort of vibe. I don't think we've done that before. I'm just thinking of different festivities now, but we always do it as a team. But again, there's no compulsion for that. You can do your own volunteer day. You are given a day in the year to do your own volunteer for whoever you want to support. We also quite enjoyed it because I'm speaking from the perspective of Reigate, which is not in London. We are quite a social bunch. We almost go out of our way to create more fun for us, considering we're not in the city, and it almost is. Oh, yeah, people almost take that to be, oh, there isn't much to do. Not really. We go all out when it comes to inviting inviting new grads in or having socials. We have a monthly board game evening where people get board games into the office, and we literally hash it out from 5 to 7 p.m. and everyone's really competitive. We have I've recently started a little crosswords club where we decrypt the crosswords out to whoever is interested. Honestly, there's no restrictions to what you can start, what you want to be involved in. As long as you have the initiative, as long as you want to do it, there'll be support around it. So culture is very much what you want to make out of it. It's supportive. It is what you want. It is amenable to what you need, basically.
Great, thank you. Anything anybody else would like to add around culture? No? Great. So there's a question here that's quite specific around actuarial. I don't know, Rupal, if you can potentially field this one. Are there any international opportunities in terms of client work, and would you rotate between pricing, reserving, and capital modelling?
So pricing, reserving, capital modeling is more on the insurance side. I wouldn't be able to advise on that specifics, but I'm sure there will be something along those lines, because we can rotate within retirement. So we have DB retirement, we have DC retirement. I'll start from the beginning. So international clients, again, everyone's path is different. I know of colleagues who've started here ages ago and have had the opportunities to go work in Dallas for 6 months and have gone to to other parts of the States, or gone where the client takes them, basically. Our client base is quite diverse. So we have some local companies, but we also have major multinational companies, which might require you to travel. I will say it's not an instantaneous thing like, oh, I've joined, I want to travel. It comes with time, it comes with expertise, it comes with the need to go should the client want you there. But yes, there's no restriction to it. There's definitely opportunities for it. The path in retirement is very much, or rather in actuarial, whether that be insurance, retirement, whatever, is what you make out of it. There's definitely opportunities, like I said, to rotate into different teams, or even just secondment. It might not be an official rotation, but you can bring that up. This is what I mean with you make your own path, as long as you take the initiative, as long as you talk to your line manager. I know for a fact that I just need to have that open line of communication with my manager and say, listen, we do a lot of work with investment team. I would like to know what they're doing. I want to be seconded to that team for a month. And he will make it happen. It might not happen at the click of a finger right now, but if you have those open lines of communication, it will happen in the short duration that, in a shortest duration, I'd say about within 6 months, you should have something. Again, these are all ballpark figures. As long as you show the interest, you show the initiative, you open a line of communication to show interest in it, and there's a reason backing it up. Like, obviously it's easier to rotate within the team itself, retirement to retirement. So DB within DC, just to understand what DC does. We particularly don't cross paths in our work, but just as a curiosity of, I want to see what they do, definite scope of that. It all matches into how you do it, who you speak to. Are you interested? You need to be your biggest volley. You need to be able to back yourself up when opportunity shows yourself. And yeah, like I said, when international, it depends on the opportunity, it depends on the clients you're on, it depends on the needs of the clients, because we put clients first. So we won't be traveling internationally just because we want to. It'll be based on a work need. And if there is a work need, there is scope, you will be sent. A lot of our colleagues actually are currently traveling to India, because we've recently done a little in India team within retirement. So a lot of people from India came and kind of understood the work culture here, and a few of the managers are going there for training. A few of non-managerial people, like my level, I haven't been, but my level people have gone. So there is definite scope if there is need.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that, exactly what Rupal was saying. In my first rotation, I was based in international property. So within that, a lot of my team did travel around, because at the end of the day, it's, as you mentioned, it's putting the needs of the client first. And one thing about working within broking and corporate insurance is that relationships are the heart of everything that we do, meaning that we want to make sure we have good relationships with the clients and also with the markets and the underwriters, because we act as that intermediary between the two. So my team did travel quite often, not necessarily me because I was just a first year grad, though there was a grad who was in construction who actually traveled to Cuba, but because he had seekers, I think quite a lot of his team were unavailable, so he was able to go and travel to help the client there. But it was on the basis that, of course, whether the need is there and also whether or not you have shown yourself trustworthy in that side of things. But definitely traveling is not anything that's not familiar with us. We definitely do encourage it as it helps to further and build up the client relationship.
Great, thanks guys. I think I'm just obviously conscious of time, so I'm also conscious that we haven't answered every single one of the questions within the chat, but we will get a copy of all of your questions. So if there's anything specific that's not been answered, we can follow up with you after the webinar. I just want to ask the panel one final question, which is, what do you wish you'd have known when you were applying for graduate vacancies or internships? So yeah, it'd be great to hear from all of you on this in kind of the last 5 minutes or so of the webinar. It's always interesting reflecting back and thinking, what advice would I give to myself, knowing what I know now?
I think about that quite a lot, especially because I'm on the other side of the system now where I'm doing interviews. And all I can say is I do see a lot of nervous interviewees, a lot of people who are just really nervous. They're probably shaking, and it's all fair. Yeah, it is completely understandable that you're nervous. But what I would definitely say is take a step back and think you're talking to another human being, right? We're not out to get you. It's completely okay to be nervous because it shows that you care. But equally, just if you take a sip of water and relax, you will interview better. There is no harm taking a beat, a pause, asking questions, being genuinely interested. Like, it's all okay to, I don't know, take it as you go. And also, one thing that I say to myself quite a lot is I went through a lot of rejections before I found my dream role here. And one really important thing is, if they have rejected you, you need to know that they weren't a perfect fit for you either. So you need to be perfect for the role, yes, but the role needs to be perfect for you as well. So if it didn't work out, there was probably a reason behind it, and you're probably better off not having that. So don't beat yourself up too much. There will be a perfect role for everyone. You will get there. So just, take the process as it is. It is painful, but you will get there. You just need a little bit of faith.
I think that's a lovely piece of advice, Rupal. Anybody else like to add something? I think it'd be great if we could hear personal experiences from all of you.
Yeah, I was gonna just kind of bounce off the back of that and say that, yeah, ultimately it's you just showcasing who you are as a person to another set of people. And also when it comes to looking at the descriptions and the job descriptions that they require, like if you are able to hit the majority of them, be confident and just apply for it. Because I, like, for instance, myself, I didn't come from like a Russell Group university or like a top 30 university. So, I was kind of sometimes thinking, like, am I even going to be considered too tough, this and that? But ultimately, it's like, as long as you feel like you're able to demonstrate these characteristics or these requirements and able to confidently put that across, as long as you've met like the base requirements too, then go ahead, like go for and do so. Like, I know that even with WTW, they don't discriminate like whether or not you went to like a Russell Group uni or you went to or you got like all A stars in your A levels. Like they don't look and focus heavy on that at all. Like, for instance, my A levels weren't the best, but from studying my degree and from like the various bits of experience that I was able to gather through that, it was still able to help me to get to the position that I'm in at the moment. So yes, be confident in the abilities that you do have. Keep striving hard in your current assessments that you're doing at uni, but ultimately just remember you are just being yourself and showing what you have to offer as well, you know. So yeah, be confident in what you have.
Great, thanks, Esther. Who'd like to go?
I think going off of that, I think as a grad, it's really important to know what you're applying to. And I think a lot of my friends were sort of applying to like 80 different grad schemes, just going and applying for anything, desperate to get something. It's really important to be passionate about what you're applying to. And I think that's why I was kind of successful at WTW, because I went to things like this and I really liked what I saw, and I did my research, and I knew that WTW was somewhere that I wanted to be. And it's really important to kind of show that passion, show why you want to be a part of WTW, how you align with WTW, and being like genuinely interested and showing your genuine interests to a company, I think is the best that you can do. And that is how you know that you are the right match for them, is that you're passionate and that you really want to be there.
Thanks, Millie. Alex or Freya, anything to add?
Pretty much the same thing from me. I was just going to say, like, if anything, I'd tell myself to not kind of be so anxious or worry so much about it, and just kind of focus on what I know and kind of what I'm good at, and just try to showcase that as best as possible. Not worry too much about the unknowns, because at the end of the day, they know you're a uni student, right? They're not expecting you to have kind of 5 years of experience worth of knowledge. So yeah, I would just probably say, yeah, not worry so much and just focus on the good parts, what's good about you, and kind of what, just essentially just not worry too much.
Great advice. Not just for graduate recruitment either, I think in life in general. Freya, anything from you finally?
Yeah, just a couple of words. Don't feel like as soon as someone's asked you an interview question, don't feel like you need to answer it immediately. If you need to take like 2 seconds to construct that like sentence that you're about to say in your head, that will stop you going like, like I would much rather just sit there, think of a decent answer and then say it, than just kind of stutter and struggle my way through it and then only actually get to the point I was trying to make at the very end. So yeah, just sit with yourself, feel confident to say your sentence and then say it. Because yeah, I think coming across like that is probably the best. But yeah, just practical on that one.
That's great. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So thanks very much to our grad panel for giving it your time today to participate in the event. Some great answers. And thanks very much to the students who've joined the event as well. Some cracking questions in there. Hopefully we've been able to provide you with a really good insight into all things graduate programs and internships at WTW. And yeah, hope you have a good rest of the day. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.